So, welcome, Cassie, to our podcast. It's so great to have you here today.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. New York City, I love that area. I did my practicum in Little Neck, and so I lived actually in Manhattan while I was doing that for like 6 to 8 weeks or something like that when I was in college, and many years ago. But I loved it. You live in Manhattan area or out in the
Yeah,
other
and
area?
Hell's Kitchen.
Okay, yeah. You've been there a lot of years.
Yeah, well, we've been here. We moved from Kansas City. I've been in the city now, or in New York City now for almost 6 years. So,
Wonderful. I'm a Midwestern transplant myself. I live in North Carolina, but I lived in Iowa and Illinois for a number of years. So,
oh, really? I'm originally from Iowa.
okay. Wow, small world. Yeah, actually, a lot of New Yorkers come to North Carolina and don't go back. So just FYI, if you come down to North Carolina, just go ahead and pack a few extra things because you won't want to go back.
Got it.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful, New York City. It's got so much to offer. So I'm a little bit envious at times of people that are in that area. So, but we're not here to talk about New York City. We're here to talk about you. So tell us about what you do here. I have your website. I'm going to share it on my screen, and maybe you can start with that.
Okay.
I have the Kassie Runyan website, kassierunyan.com. Lovely picture you have on there.
Thank
And
you.
so, tell us a little bit about what you do here with your website.
Yeah, definitely. So I started with writing fiction many years ago and put that aside for quite a while. Picked it back up when I was in my early 30s, and finished out my first novel at that point. But then what was funny is when the pandemic hit, I've been writing poetry for years and it's just been in notebooks all over the house. And once, we were stuck at home, I thought, I should probably start getting this stuff organized. And I had a lot of travel poetry from when we've been traveling around the world, as well as travel photography. And so I organized all of that into one book that's full of photography and poetry. And then as everything hit this year, it was just overwhelming in terms of emotions, with all of the struggles going on around the world and within the US. And so all of that started coming out in poetry as well, which became then my
Right.
second book. This is 2020, which is about the first 6 months of last year, focusing on my experiences in New York. The silence that was New York City for the first 6 months of the pandemic, as well as social issues and social injustices.
Right. I imagine, from my short experience in city, what it might have been like. Um, I imagine New York did get rather quiet.
Yes, it was very, I've heard from people outside that, New York might be a ghost town, but I look outside and it's very normal now. You've got a
Mhm.
line of people going through the tunnel and people walking outside. Just everybody's got their mask, and you do the 6 foot side shuffle.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, the first 6 months it was very different.
Sure.
We had um, refrigeration trucks down the block from our apartment, and you had, when you passed people on the street, there was this like immediate, oh, we're in this together kind of look. I know you because
Right.
you're also outside right now with me,
Hmm.
combined with, oh my God, a person. We need to move, not be
Yeah.
on the same street.
Yes. And I think that's would be kind of hard there in the sense that there's so many people, just in each day, just going up and down the streets of New York. So much, is foot traffic, and so
Yeah.
yes, it's quite a little bit unique challenge. I can imagine. So, but you ended up writing a couple of books um, about the situation. So wow,
Yeah.
pretty
I've got
impressive.
the second Well, I got a really good response from the first, this is 2020. So now I've got the rest of the year coming out. Hopefully at the end of this month is when it's scheduled for. So that one will be a continuation of the final 6 months all the way up until February.
And what's the name of that one?
I'm arguing over it still. Trying to decide if I'm okay with this is 2020 a poetry continuation or not. So
Okay.
that's the goal. But
Well, it remains to be seen. Talk about this. What's Open Door all about?
yeah, so this was, after my mid-pandemic book came out, I actually somehow over social media connected with a wonderful poet out of England that had also written a pandemic book. And so we just immediately connected. She had this great idea to start a magazine, and we just clicked and everything grew from that. And the main goal of this is to keep it free to subscribe, free to submit. So that way we're able to take in more works and words and art. It's expanded into art and authors, and be able to share that every month. And also with people who might not have ever, subscribed to a paid poetry magazine because they think I don't get poetry, which happens a lot. And then now they've got this free option, and we've had so many messages from people just that they've never really read a lot of poetry before, and this is just opening their eyes.
Nice. So I'm taking a look here. Theme poetry. Looks like we just had that in February. So this is
Yes.
something that would have been in there. Misconnections and fleeting moments. Okay, what's that all about?
So we make a theme every month.
Hmm.
So our magazine's split into different sections. So the first one is theme poetry or stories, and people submit whatever their interpretation is of the theme. And then we choose all of the submissions on the 20th, and those come out in one section of the magazine. And then we also have features. So we have between 4 and 6 features every month that are going to be people who've got books coming out, new artists, things like that. People trying to build their group or their social presence.
Wow.
And we've got
You have a lot of
artists,
people.
authors, we've got musicians.
Wow. And they all belong to this Open Door magazine group then. They
Yeah,
join.
yeah, we've had a
Wow.
great response. We've shared words and art from people from across 18 countries now,
Wow.
and we've got subscribers in just as many countries. So that's pretty exciting. It takes a lot of work to keep it running every month. So we started an anthology. So we'll start putting out an anthology for every quarter of every year that will
Nice.
have all of the theme poetry and all of the features and articles in each anthology, and that will help us keep the operating cost paid for and our effort
Mhm.
cost paid for so that we can continue to share it for free.
What attractive artwork is
Thank you.
this? You have a variety of people to do the artwork here?
It's all been me so far.
Wow. You're a
So
very talented, multi-talented woman there.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so Mel, my co-owner, and I, we both choose poems, choose the themes. I manage the layouts and the artwork.
Hmm. Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Great job. I'm so impressed. Wow. I'm an artist too, but I think I might pale in comparison.
Oh, I'm sure.
Now, I know you have some poetry to share with us today. Would you like to bless us with your words?
Yes. So I'm going to share 3 poems. The first one is from This is 2020. This is 2020 is uh, it's very much like protest poetry, but I wanted to end that whole book with something that was more hopeful on reminding
Hmm.
people of their impacts.
Right.
So this is from that, and it's called Ripple. A drip, a drop of water falls down to the earth, joining a giant lake. How could such a tiny little drop impact a big lake? Watch as it falls and touches the smooth water. A circle appears flowing out further and another. Tiny ripple after ripple caused only by a drip, by a drop. You are that drop. I am that drop. Every decision, every fall that I make causes ripples that I might not see. They could be small like a drop of water. They could be large like a rock thrown carelessly. They could cause destruction like the wave from a storm. A decision to have a drink leads to the death of an acquaintance. Someone's mother struggling to breathe. Do not live in fear or with hate, but remember, as a drop in this great lake, that you can choose what type of ripple you will create as you fall towards the earth.
Wow, that's beautiful. And it's so significant and so expressive of what's really important, that we all have a place in this world.
Yeah, we've
Absolutely.
all got to pay attention to that, right?
Absolutely. We get lost, I think, and I think with the pandemic, people are become more isolated. So it's
Yeah.
important, very important.
Oh, yes. That's one of the things I do love about New York. Love and hate about New York. You've got so many people. There tends to be this type of community of do things for the greater good in many of the neighborhoods, and that's one of the things that I really enjoy about it. Of course, we got so many people that even that can't be everyone. But okay, so then my next one is the gods, and that's from their footsteps, which is the travel one. This is from Athens, and just sitting. I don't know if you've ever been, but the Parthenon at the top, getting there when it first opens, it's just quiet,
Hmm.
and it's kind of amazing, and makes you really think about when was this built and how was this built.
Right.
Standing where they stood before Christ was born, the gods of our ancestors, a foot set down by Athena to create the pale city below. The bright sun shines in daggers of gold, lighting the blue sky, and the pillars made of marble. They were carried up the hill on the backs of slaves over 1,000 years ago. The faces of stone show the sadness of the gods forgotten, now just a memory evolved into the gods that we know today. The air is sweet and quiet before the school groups and buses show up to join our oohs and ahs at the thought of the gods that once lived in the minds of all of those around them. My eyes drip up, up, up to stare into the eyes of the worn out women and men carved into the marble. I close my eyes and the sun heats my face as if I'm kissed by the gods as I stand where they stood all those years ago.
Oh, lovely. Reminds me some of when I was in New York, I went to the Met, and I practically lived in the art museum, and thinking about some of the old, the statues and stuff, and wondering about the stories behind it. And you kind of walked along those trails with that poem.
Yeah, thank
What it was
you.
like to go back and then bring it into the present. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's so amazing to look at a lot of those statues. Yeah, and I know where you're talking about in the Met too.
Mhm.
Um, and just seeing how worn everything is, but it was so detailed when it was created, and it's just been so
Yes.
long.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then my last one is Holes in the Land. So this is part of the upcoming book, TBD, or this is 2020, a continuation. Uh, and this is in regards to the lives lost with COVID. Where people used to stand, now holes in the land. One for each soul moved on, perhaps to a great beyond. voices silenced for good, life ending before it should. Now holes in the land as we reach out our hand, trying to hold on to the breath that left you with your death. Never to come again, it's over before it began. They said it wasn't their fault as they killed you without an assault, refusing to give a shit or even to really admit that they weren't a hypocrite or quite lacking the wit to know enough to not commit that wearing just a bit of knit was not showing us a mitt. Rather, it was to stop the transmit of a virus that continues to span, creating holes in the land.
Yes, that's very profound. And, I wonder with this, the after effects of the pandemic that people are experiencing now, what it's going to be like over the next year or so. Um, and people are dealing with grief and, you know,
Yeah.
it's, my one family member that's had like 5 funerals this past year, most of them
Wow.
related to that. And, so it's something that we need to think about for this year and probably several years coming is, dealing with grief and what are we going to do about that to be, of service to other people. I think that really brings it home to what it's like.
Yeah. I mean, our biggest point, right, is that, when you think back to 9/11, there was a defining moment that people came together
Hmm.
and understood the pain that it created, that rippled out. And I feel like that's what we need to see with this situation too, is that this is, even though it's wider spread, it's a defining moment in our planet's history that we need
Right.
to from and address and understand that it's going to impact people's lives for a long time
Hmm.
to come.
Exactly. How are we going to move forward to make this come out, so that we can be a unified, country and countries, really, um, because this is really a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
So, being
Yep.
able to handle it that way.
Completely
Well,
agree.
your poetry really brings it home for, what's really going on, and I'm really, this is something that's near and dear to my heart is like a few things actually that the whole idea of the justice, that we need to find in this world and finding peace and caring for one another and how do we go forward with that. So thank you for sharing your words and making them available to people so that might open some eyes. It might create some thoughts about what people can do to show care for one another.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And Cassie, is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you'd like to share?
I don't think so. It's just a lot of stuff moving, very exciting stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and again, with Open Door Magazine, Open Door Poetry Magazine, we take submissions. So if anyone watching this wants to submit, we love reading and seeing stuff
Wonderful.
from new authors.
Well, I will have that in the show notes too, so people can go in there and click on the magazine and check it out. I know I'm going to
Perfect.
look a little bit deeper into it myself, may end up joining as well. So,
Yes, wonderful.
well, thank you so much. Keep us posted when this next book to be determined is titled and ready to purchase. And I wish you a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being on our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, and have a great weekend. Hopefully the weather stays
Yes,
nice.
absolutely. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Have a good one.
You too.